Hello and welcome to Season 3 of Oxrageous Podcast. Believe it or not, this is my 40th episode, and for better or for worse, you can see me now. The reason you can see me now is over the summer I had a successful Kickstarter campaign because I wanted to get into video podcasting. And I was overwhelmed with support from a great core group of people on Gator Chatter. And here we are. And before I do anything else, I wanted to give a shout out to some of those generous people. Sean Hale, who's Tennessee Gator. Jason Rowe, Nevada Gator. David Theot, who's Gator Mac 2112. Bradley Beck, who's our beloved Brad Gator 2. And of course, Phineas Maximus. And I'd also like to thank Jason Walker, who we'll be interviewing here shortly. Three additional members, Maheo 30, Concrete Helmet, and UF Gator 812 will be interviewing later in the season, so we'll get to know them a little better at that time. This isn't like audio podcasting. The last couple of years in audio podcasting, when I flubbed something or said something incredibly stupid, I would simply delete it and do another take. This is going to be a little more loose, and I'm not really going to be able to do that. We're just going to roll with it, and when I have a moronic take, it's just going to have to hang out there on the internet forever. So I think maybe that'll add a little bit to the entertainment factor. Another thing I want to do this season was get the members of Gator Chatter involved a little more in the show. Now, I've got Gator Chatter open here in front of me, and I'll have it open in front of me for the whole season. What I was going to do is I start a weekly thread asking for questions. Got a question about the Gators, you want me to try to answer it on the show? I'll go through, pick and choose, push the insulting ones or the stupid ones aside, and pick a few, which I've done. It is a new era for Gator football, and I'm very pleased and proud to say it's a new era for Gator football. Year too late, I think, for most of us. But if Muschamp were returning in this year, I don't know if I'd be able to sit here and even do this show. Unlike cases where a successful coach leaves to go somewhere else, we have a new coach because the last one was fired. And it's always a good thing, and it's an exciting thing. Anything different is good, because the Will Muschamp era was like something not many of us had experienced before, at least not in decades. With the Ron Zook era, Ron Zook was a lousy in-game coach, and he would find ways to lose games. But at least they looked like they knew how to play football, and the team looked like it occasionally practiced. The Will Muschamp era was completely different. It was unwatchable football. It went well beyond wins and losses. And I think the Gators won 8 games last year, and there was nothing fun about it, except maybe the one about Georgia. But Gator football, you just prayed you could get through it. The fun had gone out of Gator football. And we're all hoping Coach McElwain is going to turn that around. It was made worse, when Will Muschamp took all that money, went to another SEC team, and immediately started recruiting against Florida. It's just been a nightmare scenario. I'm going to jump on a few questions now, Gator Chatter questions. The first one, do you think Foley will lose his job if Mac crashes and burns? And that was a question by Brad Gator 2. Well, Jeremy Foley's been a lot more of a polarizing figure since the Muschamp fiasco. When we were winning championships with Meyer and Donovan, and there was titles flying all over the place, Jeremy Foley was revered. He was untouchable. It looked for a while there they were going to erect a statue to him. And then the Muschamp thing was flubbed so badly that people are still angry at Jeremy Foley. Will he lose his job? At this point, Jeremy Foley's done enough for the university. He's not going to get fired. But I think he's been relatively close to retirement for many years now. I think looking for a new head coach is a major drag. Between taking flights and having people track your flights and the rumors and sticking the microphone in coaches' faces all over the country. I think that gets old. I think that was one of the reasons why he pushed off firing Muschamp for a year. He didn't want to go through another coaching search. And I don't think he wants to go through another coaching search. So the question is, if Matt crashes and burns, I think that Jeremy Foley will retire. I think Jeremy Foley has hired his last football coach at Florida. Okay, next question. Do you think the streaks over Kentucky and Tennessee are going to survive this year? And that is another question by Brad Gator too. And the answer is, of course I do. Is there any reason not to think so? Last year, both Kentucky and Tennessee had, I think, their best chances in a long, long time. Both of them almost pulled it off, but almost wasn't good enough. In terms of Tennessee, we hear this every year. They're starting to get more hype. I think they're getting more hype from the media, the sports media, than they've had maybe since the Fulmer era. Kind of the way, because of the way they ended the year, and their recruiting has been strong. But they always find a way to lose the Gators. And when it comes to Tennessee, the Gators are immune to anything going on. They're immune to whoever the coach is. They're immune to any injuries they have. We just simply beat Tennessee. And after what we saw last year, pulling off that game we really had no business winning, I don't know how anyone could pick Tennessee to beat Florida. I assume the streak will end eventually, but I'm looking for at least another 10 years in a row. I've also seen no evidence that Butch Jones can coach a lick. I don't believe he's beaten anyone yet. Next question. If Greer wins the QB battle, will Treon transfer, switch positions, or stay as the backup QB? You know, I think you can't help but feel a little bit bad for Treon Harris. And you can't really help feel bad for even Jeff Driscoll, and that the offenses and the coaching they had to play under. Treon Harris was thrown into the fire last year and created a little bit of a spark, as much as a spark as he could on that team. He showed us some things he was good, some things he was bad. Jeff Driscoll, of course, was lousy across the board, but the situations they were put in were simply about the worst you could imagine from a quarterback. I think Will Grier is going to be the guy. From all accounts, he's going to be the guy. I also think, though, we're going to need Treon Harris this year. Either because Grier is ineffective or he gets hurt. I think Treon Harris knows he still has a great chance to play at the University of Florida. He's going to stay on. Of course, he's going to stay on as the backup. I don't see Treon Harris going anywhere. Next question. Which section of the offense do you think will see most improvement in Mac's first year? And that's another question by Brad Gator, too. One thing that jumps out to me is, how about the intermediate passing game? You know, this was something Steve Spurrier made a living at, was the intermediate passing game. And I'm talking 15 to 20-yard passes. In the Muschamp era, we had no intermediate passing game. We either threw at the line of scrimmage or we threw a 50-yard bomb. And Jeff Driscoll, and really anyone else in the Muschamp era, threw the worst deep ball in college football. There has been no intermediate passing game. I think that's something Coach Mack will bring back to the Florida Gators. Now the question is, will our offensive line allow for an intermediate passing game? That one we don't know yet. And concerning the offensive line, everybody, even our own fans, consider this offensive line abysmal. Worse than the SEC, worse the Gators have had in who knows how long. So they have nowhere to go but up. And I really think it's possible that they surprise us. But it's a good thing about having expectations so low. They really can't be any lower. We expect them to play poorly. But I have a feeling they're going to play a little bit better than everyone's expecting. Okay. Which players will have the biggest impact in the passing game and why? Gator JB asked that question. Well, there's been a lot of talk about this, but it's looking like the tight ends may actually come into play again. I pulled up some numbers, and the Gators in the last 2 seasons have 30 catches for 279 yards out of their tight ends. 30 catches in 2 years, and in 2013 there was 4 catches from the tight ends. In 3 years at Colorado State, tight ends caught 156 passes for nearly 2,000 yards for McElwain's teams. He's already said he likes 2 tight end sets, including having them split wide or use as H-backs. So McGee is the obvious star of the show, and Goolsby, I believe, is the next in line. We might see a lot of McGee and Goolsby in 2 tight end sets. McGee is a key this year. You know, we had McGee last year for about 30 seconds, and one part of his leg was laying here and the other was over here, and that was it. Hopefully we can get a little more out of him this year. We're going to need a little more out of him this year. I also think with an inexperienced quarterback in Will Grier and a lousy offensive line, tight ends always are a security blanket in that situation. So I personally think where the tight ends are going to be get a lot of catches and going to have a very big impact on the passing game. All right, next question by Carib Gator. What win-loss record would be minimal if we saw progress in the offensive game? Well, everyone wants to speculate on the win-loss record in Mac's first year, and it's almost impossible to predict in a coach's first year. We don't know what we're getting yet. And some people are really down. They say 4 wins. Some are really up. They say 10 wins. Most people, the experts, 7, 8 wins, and those are reasonable. Personally, I don't think you can underestimate how weak the SEC East is. And for example, every expert has penciled Florida in for a loss to Georgia, for example. But they did that last year, and look what happened. You just don't know what's going to happen in rivalry games. Looking at the schedule, to me, the most obvious loss is at LSU, but the other 11, I think, are winnable. South Carolina is weak. Ole Miss and Tennessee are home games, and FSU is completely ripe for the taking. Gator fans, of all people, know what it means when your elite quarterback leaves and how everything can come crashing down. Since Tim Tebow walked away, we've been the laughingstock of college football, and I think Florida State might experience a similar transition. Close games, of course, are going to be the biggest. That can be the difference between 5 wins and 9 this year. Can the Gators win close games? For the heck of it, I looked up Colorado State's record last year. They had 5 games decided by 7 points or less and won 4 of them. Does it mean anything? I don't know, but I thought it was interesting. Next question. Well, I think we agree that Matt gets a pass his first year. What do you think will be expected record-wise in his second year to keep the masses from grumbling? So I just talked about the first year. Now we're talking about the second year. And this question really can't be answered. It's impossible to answer. Coach Mack walked into a good situation when it comes to fan expectations. The fans are completely beaten down. For years they said Gator fans are spoiled. Well, if Gator fans are spoiled, I don't think they're spoiled anymore. They have been properly punished. And it's not just losing. Watching embarrassing football has Gator fans so hungry that just putting an entertaining, watchable product on the field is going to go a long way, much longer than it would have gone 5 years, 10 years ago. Expectations are rock bottom. You know, I went from praying we win to just praying we didn't embarrass ourselves on the field. And you hear people say, winning is everything. Winning, winning, winning. I don't think winning is everything, because football is entertainment. Football is a game. You got to be able to watch a game and enjoy yourself. How many wins have we had in the last 4 years that we didn't enjoy? That we were just relieved they were over. I really, really hope that changes this year. Everybody's hoping it changes this year. I really want football to be fun again. What I'm getting at is if Coach Mack can just do that, make football fun again, the players, the fans are going to give him a much longer rope. Next question. What is it about Mack that can turn UF's program back in the right direction? Tennessee Gator wrote that. I don't think you can help but like Coach Mack's personality. Particularly after listening to Muschamp's, grunts and faces and busted knuckles machoism the last 4 years. Muschamp's one of these guys he's a football coach, so he's always got to look like a football coach. He's got to act like one. He's got to talk like one. Everything's always got to be serious. And when he busts his knuckles on a board in the locker room, he's got to hang those over. So he wants the press to see those busted knuckles, and he's going to scowl at them, and you know what a midline is, and if you're winning, you're going to get a pass on that crap. But he wasn't winning, and it got old. At least Coach Mack talks like a real person. I think it's refreshing. It's almost Spurrier-like. Spurrier would talk like a real human being. He would say things that weren't all coach speak. So I like Coach Mack's persona. I think he can be disciplined with the players and yet talk to the fans and the media like a real person. And, it's for as discipline-oriented as Will Muschamp supposedly was, the play on the field really wasn't that disciplined. The most important thing about Coach Mack is making the players believe in themselves again. He had a very eye-opening interview in the last week where he talked about the offensive players being beaten down. They'd been criticized a lot. They were afraid of making mistakes, and they started to believe the negative things being said about them all the time. And that's something he has to change and bring them out of it. And I know particularly with the quarterbacks in the Will Muschamp era, had no confidence because the coaches showed no confidence in them. The coaches didn't want the quarterbacks to make plays. They wanted quarterbacks to manage the game, to run the clock, to not turn the ball over. They were not encouraged to win the game for you. So what happened? They were tight. Jeff Driscoll was terrible, but my heart goes out to Jeff Driscoll. We'll see how he does on a different team this year. I don't think Jeff Driscoll was a Heisman winner, but he was put in about the worst possible situation you can as a quarterback. I think Coach Mack just showing confidence in these quarterbacks, it makes all the difference in the world. Knowing the players are going to make some mistakes, but they need to be encouraged to go out there and be playmakers. Will Muschamp did not believe in letting offensive playmakers make plays. And that is huge. And I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see the players gel this year more than we have in a long time. Okay, that's enough of me blathering for a while. I'm going to head to the phone and get Jason Walker on the horn. So I will be right back. All right, we're back with Jason Walker. Jason's a regular on the Oxrageous podcast. Jason, good to have you back. What have you been up to these days, man?
Oh, man, we've been super busy. I'm still managing editor of Peachtree Hoops, covering the Atlanta Hawks. This will be my 16th year, I believe, covering the Atlanta Hawks day to day, so very excited about that. And been providing a lot of daily fantasy sports content for DraftKings, Razzball, and Daily Fantasy Bootcamp. So, man, it's been jam-packed between MLB, NFL, and coming back in the fall NBA.
Well, Jason, you know why you're here. It is a new era of Gator football. Thankfully, a new era of Gator football. And the first thing I just want to ask you is, what did you think of the hiring of Jim McElwain?
Yeah, I'm super encouraged about it because it's a coach that values the forward pass. So, anything beyond the Flintstonian offensive attack we've been running out there the last few years is well welcomed. And everybody in the West Coast that followed McElwain out there was sad to see him go, and certainly sad to see him to go to Florida because everybody hates the Gators, you know that. So that's always encouraging too. You don't want a coach where they're throwing a parade for the guy as he's walking out the door. You want somebody who's wanted and who's made an impact. And McElwain already coaching at this high level, that was definitely a prerequisite for me, as I was hoping for a coach that already had head coaching experience. So, I think that having him aboard, how he does in Florida, I mean, we don't know. We'll see. But my enthusiasm is high, at least until the first quarter of the first game.
Well, when Muschamp was leaving, he said something about how the next coach was going to have it so easy. And since McElwain came in, we've realized how thin we are. And in fact, USA Today has us ranked 69th heading into the season.
Yeah, well, I mean, the team's such an unknown that we may as well be ranked 100th or 1,000th. I don't know if they can do that. But they can go ahead and put any number next to them. I've seen places that have the Gators as high as 24th, 25th, 26th. It's hard to justify that kind of standing when, how the team has looked with Muschamp the last few years, So, I mean, any kind of improvement would be good. I'm glad. I'd be happy starting in the back and working our way up if warranted, rather than try to justify that kind of high standing. But as far as Muschamp saying the next coach has it easy, geez, if we'd only given him another year or 7, Aaron, maybe things have been different for Will Muschamp.
What do you think of the quarterback situation? How's that going to shape up?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've heard some people say that the offensive line is such a disaster that they're going to have to run Treon Harris out there because he'll have to run for his life. But, it's hard to say. Because the offensive attack was so rudimentary under Muschamp, it's hard to know how good that offensive line was when everybody knows the ball isn't going further than 3 yards past the line of scrimmage at best. It's hard for that offensive line to really do anything productive. It's hard for them to look good in that regard. So, if McElwain can call some 3-step drops and get the ball down the field with a forward pass, that's going to take the pressure off that offensive line. And I kind of see Greer as being the guy at quarterback. Although it's not, Treon Harris, it's nice to know that he's there. And I'm sure he's going to get his packages in. But, I kind of think it'll be interesting to see. But the Gators have nothing to gain by keeping Will Greer on ice unless they just felt like he was going to get slaughtered back there. But, I don't see that. I don't see that happening. I think this is a competent offensive staff. And I think they're going to set Greer up for success.
There's been a lot of speculation on what's the record going to be this year. Everyone throws out a number. On Gator Chatter, we've heard the real down in the dumps people saying 4 wins, and the real pumpers saying 10 wins. Most of the pundits are saying 7 wins. You got any thoughts there on that?
Yeah, I could see the Gators being bowl eligible, which would be nice, But I think really this season is about improvement and any kind of not even just incremental. I think that just seeing the confidence back in Gator football is the goal. I don't think there's a 10-win or 11-win, 5 wins or whatever. I don't think a number matters this year. That's how bad, Aaron, it's gotten in Gator football. You can't even look at a number of wins and take satisfaction in it. It's about how the Gators play. Is the confidence back? Can the Gators move the football? Let's just stop being an embarrassment at times on the field. That would be a massive improvement. And I think that's what this staff's going to bring to there. I think there's going to be an offensive competence. Defense has always been sound. You got to give them credit for that. Even with such a pathetic offense, that defense was still pretty sound. So, I think seeing the Gators get back to being a force rather than a farce is the goal for this season.
Just some watchable football. Let's start there. Let's be watchable. Forget winning. Let's be watchable.
Right. Don't try to limbo under that bar. Yeah, but that's right. That's about where it is.
What do you think of Coach Mack's demeanor compared to how we've? I mean, he's kind of the opposite of the macho Will Muschamp. What do you think of his demeanor?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, when you're looking to make a change, you want to change, and certainly it's different than the Coach Boom that we got. That all looks good when you're winning. When you're losing, it looks silly, and it was looking rather silly the last couple of years in Gainesville. So I think somebody that's quiet and somebody that's just out there to coach and make this team better is exactly what we need in Gainesville this year.
You got any thoughts on the coordinators that Coach Mack brought in? Because a lot of people weren't very happy with the coordinators. They thought they were mediocre choices. You got any thoughts there?
No, because I think it all starts with the head coach. I mean, we saw that. Offensive coordinator after offensive coordinator came in under Will Muschamp, and all of them had offensive pedigree, and they all sucked. And that's because it started at the top with Muschamp. So, most of these guys are brought in because of recruiting anyway. So as long as they're bringing in talent, I don't see that there's any cause for concern on that, because ultimately the head coach is where it all trickles down from. And, we've seen that with every coach that's come through the University of Florida, that, it doesn't matter who they have as a coordinator, that, as long as the guy on top has the right philosophy, or a philosophy that works, then those guys are going to be set up for success too.
You think there's anything the first game against New Mexico State can tell us, or is this just a throwaway game? Anything you see coming from that?
Well, I think you can always take something. You can't just count it. I mean, the Gators had some easy times with Muschamp in those early games, and there's no doubt about it. But you can tell by the offensive systems, what kind of plays they're going to run, where the philosophy is. You can see some of that in that first game, and it's a nice stepping stone to get out there on for a first game and get that under the belt. But I think you can see that. You can see where some of the skill position players, see how they play. How does the quarterback play? Obviously, everyone's going to be watching that, and see how the lines work, both the offensive line, and the defensive line too. And that's to see if there's any kind of cause for concern. If the opponent rushes, hundreds and hundreds of yards against you, it's going to be a problem. So I think if we see the defense give up a ton, that'll be certainly a red flag. But otherwise, I think that we're just going to see kind of trends, and hope that they can carry through to the next game.
Jason, it's really great having you on, and I hope to have you on again throughout the season. You're really my only regular on the Oxrageous podcast.
Well, that's sad, but I appreciate it. And, let's go Gators this year. Let's keep the positive stuff going on Gator Chatter. Let's keep things going, and let's greet each other at the games. And let's make sure we make this season a true turnaround season for the Florida Gators.
Absolutely, and let's watch them. Let's watch some real football this year.
Woohoo! Right. That's right. Force over farce in 2015.
Thanks a lot, Jason.
You got it.
I'll be right back to wrap up. Okay. Always good to have Jason Walker on the show. Let's get to the final question from our Gator Chatter crowd. This is written by Hogtown Gator. I have a question about the message board game time atmosphere. What do you anticipate for Gator Chatter when the new coach takes the field and the chatter box is filled up and the official game day thread is posted? Have you even begun to contemplate the atmosphere in here with all the excitement, the anticipation, and the emojis? How different will the message board game time atmosphere be with the fresh start under Mac? Well, I think we're all excited about a new era, and I think a lot of the fans who had showed a lot of apathy are going to come back. We've forgotten how great the Gator Nation is, as less and less people, sadly, stopped caring over the last 5 years. And being involved in these message boards, you see it. You see traffic start to dwindle. The same people who have been around for years start to go away, posting less and less. It's fun owning a message board because it becomes almost a party time atmosphere on game day, with people all over the country coming together, kind of watching the game together. You feel like you're in one big room. And Gator Chatter is great because we have an ongoing thread for the people that want to post, basically play-by-play, and then we have a live chatter box for those who want the instant gratification of being in a room of 30 or 40 members discussing the game as it happens. So it's a great time for everybody, and I think we're going to see a lot more traffic and excitement than we saw last year. And I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a great time on Gator Chatter. So please, if you're not going to post, fine, but hang out and watch see what's going on. A lot of people just like to sit back and see what other people are saying, but you're not going to find a better place to talk Gators on the web. So that's going to wrap up week 1. I appreciate you sitting through this podcast. Please visit us on GatorChatter.com. If you need to contact me with any questions, comments, anything, you can always email me at Oxrageous@Oxrageous.com. I, for one, am very pumped, excited. I think it's going to be a better year than a lot of people are predicting, and I hope you hang out with me and we can enjoy it together. Everybody have a great week, and go Gators.